Hi, this is your host of the Student Midwife Podcast. I'm in Fenimore, Wisconsin right now. I am staying in a birth house, not necessarily a birth center, but a birth house. Yeah, I'm in the student housing upstairs in the attic, kind of. I want to make it really clear that my opinions are definitely my own, and it has nothing to do with any of the midwives I work with or the school I'm affiliated with. Just so we're clear, like none of that. Their opinions are theirs, mine are my own. So this podcast is purely from my perspective and my life and my opinions. So, yeah. Welcome back. I can't believe I'm doing episode 3. Hopefully you're enjoying it if you're coming back again. I want to recommend 2 books today. Neither of them are necessarily what people would call like midwife books, but they certainly have shaped my life and my beliefs about reproductive rights and just being a woman and how I live my life in general and all that sort of stuff. So the first book, which is actually a novel, I know I'm recommending a novel, but it's a really good one. This is what I consider my Bible, because it really opened my mind at a time when I was starting to question my religious background and upbringing, and shook up my whole worldview, honestly, and changed everything about how I think about life in general. So it's called The Cider House Rules by John Irving. And you may have seen the movie with that name. I'm not a fan of the movie. The movie doesn't even get into the meat and the heart of like what the book is talking about at all. The movie is more like a romance story, whatever, that's fine. But it doesn't get into what I believe the book was, the points the book was really trying to come across with. So at the time when I picked up this book, I was an evangelical Christian. I definitely considered myself pro-life. And I think this book like totally changed my worldview. From that point on, I began to really question like whether I would consider myself pro-life anymore or even evangelical Christian. So if you're not ready to shake up your whole worldview, maybe don't read this book. But if you are, if that's fine with you, it's a great book to read. It is about this doctor in the early 1900s, maybe in the 1920s and 30s, I think. I don't know. I forget the time frames exactly. That's not the important part, but this doctor is a abortionist in a time and place in Maine where it is not legal. And he also runs an orphanage, and he always says, you know, it's either an abortion or an orphan. And it makes the point that, you know, these children are uncared for, the ones that are born instead of aborted. And some of them never end up with homes, and some of them end up, you know, in some really bad situations because they don't have anyone that loves them. So he really sees the benefit of offering abortions to women, but he also offers a place for them to leave their babies if they don't want to have an abortion. So he is really offering all the choices that are available. And so he's a really great doctor, and he trains one of his orphans, keeps trying to get adopted, but for various reasons ends up back at the orphanage over and over again. His name is Homer. So he starts to train Homer to basically be his protege, and from a very young age he trains him like how to do abortions and things like that. And then Homer goes through his own things in his life and goes through like a kind of a crisis of faith, if you want to say that, and decides he doesn't want anything to do with abortions and thinks that they're totally yucky and wrong, until he ends up in a situation where he basically can't not use his skills. And I don't want to spoil any more of the book if anyone actually wants to read it. It's a hefty book. It's about 500 pages. But it's such a good read. You will love it. I think the story is very beautiful. And I read it to my grandma when she was really sick with pneumonia. And I was surprised because it was kind of like sort of, you know, there's some sex stuff and like some very stuff you wouldn't normally read to your grandma, you know, but she loved it too. So, yeah, I highly recommend this book. I think it makes a really good point about why abortion should be available to people. And it's a beautiful book. And this doctor obviously loves everybody that he's taking care of, the children in the orphanage, as well as the women that come to see him for abortions. Like, he's a very good person, a very kind person. He always calls the little boys that are under his care like princes of Maine and kings of New England. He's trying to instill in them a sense of pride and dignity, even though they're orphans. I just can't recommend the book enough. Like, I think it is incredibly beautiful. And there's a reason that the word rules is in the title. It's all about like who decides for who what rules exist. You know what I mean? I think that's the deep point the book is trying to make. Like, who gets to decide what rules should really exist for people, and why do they get to decide those things? And so, yeah, you should read it. It's just, I can't recommend it enough. It's one of my favorites. I haven't read it in a number of years. I might try to find a copy this year to read again, because it's been a while since I've read it. And it's one of those books that I kind of want to keep rereading, because it re-energizes me in my belief systems. And it just reminds me of like where I was as a person when I was 14, and like the things I was questioning, and how I came across this book, and then like it just shook up my whole worldview. So that's beautiful. It's always beautiful to have your whole worldview completely shook up, and just your mind open to whole new ideas and possibilities. I think that's a really, really good thing for humans. Yeah, maybe not all of us need our whole worldview completely shifted, but I did. I really did. I was kind of raised in a cult, and that's how I see it now. And I needed my mind opened and expanded in ways that book just like really facilitated. So super happy about that. And then I read a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And oh my God, if you want another book that will just like really open your mind to things that you've never thought about. She's a Jungian psychologist. And if you are into like fairy tales and the deep symbols and the deep meanings in different stories and things like that, you will love her book. She takes a lot of classic fairy tales and talks about them from a feminist perspective, and like what the deep meanings are for women specifically, and what the lessons are or that are in there that are woven into these classic stories that we all kind of hear throughout our lives but kind of take for granted. It's just, that book is, I can't recommend it enough. I've bought many copies for people and just given them away to people, because it's another one that I would consider my Bible. Like, it opened my mind in ways and shifted things in ways that I can't even describe to you. So if you love that kind of like symbolism and learning through stories and like magic fairy tales and things, like you'll love that book. You'll love that book. I picked it up when I was in the Peace Corps in Africa, and I could not put it down. I was like just reading. It's another hefty book. It's like 500 pages. Again, it's a hefty one, but it doesn't feel long. Like, both of those books don't feel really long because they're just really great. They're like juicy they're like eating a steak versus like eating a box macaroni meal, you know? There's so much nutrition in there. It's just juicy books. So those are my book recommendations. I want to talk about so many things, but I don't even know where to start. It's kind of strange living in a house, a birth house, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm really glad I'm here. It's been a lot of downtime so far, which I'm actually like really luxuriating in, because I don't ever get that at home. Like, I've told you, I have 4 kids, I have a farm, I have a husband, I have a mother-in-law, I have all these things. I'm very busy, and I'm doing reproductive rights activism stuff, and I'm in my church, and I'm in midwifery school. I'm just very busy. So having some downtime here has been like a godsend. Honestly, I've just been sleeping a lot because I don't get a lot of time at home for just like relaxing, lounging, and having fun. And so I've just been like watching videos that I want to watch without anyone screaming, "Mom, that's not what we like," or whatever. And just like not enjoying not having like children constantly all over my body and like pulling on my clothes and yelling for my attention. And I've had time to journal and like read fun books and sleep. But I'm waiting for those phone calls because I know it is going to get busy, because that's how midwifery is, right? It's like you're waiting, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's like 10 births in a row or something. God, I hope not like that. But it does come, babies come in, they come together. I don't know why. I heard one midwife once say that she feels like they need friends. They like having friends. So they like to be born at the same time. So they can be assured that they'll have friends growing up. I don't know. I think that's funny and very cute. But it does seem like babies hit like a cyclone, It's very quiet, and then all of a sudden, like, you'll be called to like 3 births in a row, and you'll be like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? So anyway, that's what we're sitting here waiting, but it's good because I am with this other student that is fantastic, and couldn't ask for a better roommate. We have our own rooms in this place, but housemate, I should say. She's a great student, and she's going to be a fantastic midwife. So couldn't ask for a better person to hang out with while we're waiting for whatever births to happen. And we've done some clinic, not very much, but a little bit, and that's fun to jump back into that because it's been a long time for me. I haven't been in any clinics or anything, so getting back into the hands-on rhythms of things is really great because I missed all that stuff. The book part of learning and lectures and all that are fun too, but it's really fun to learn midwifery like on the ground, like doing the things, So I've always enjoyed, like, even as when I was a student nurse too, doing clinics was like, it's the best. It's the best part, because you're learning like the firsthand stuff on the ground as you go. So, and it was hard for me too. Like when I started as an LPN, I hadn't really even, like, I was very scared to even touch people. I hadn't ever had experience with that kind of hands-on stuff. And that'll get you over your fear of being in people's spaces and touching people real quick. If you have that fear. I certainly did. So I came from a family where we didn't even really hug. So, it was like, you don't touch other people. So it was very foreign to me. So I had to learn that super quick. But here I am. I'm putting myself out there. I'm ready. I'm jumping in. So yeah, it feels very much like Jenny, and if you've seen Call the Midwife, I feel like I'm staring at the phone downstairs, like waiting for it to ring. And I just feel like I'm going to pick it up and say, "Nana's house, midwife speaking." I know I won't. And anyway, it's going to be, since it's the weekend, the phone is like, the maid and midwife on call has like the phone, all the phone stuff goes to her. So it's not going to ring anyway, but I'm just like sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. So that's exciting. That is exciting. And it's exciting to be here. And I'm going to have more time to focus on some of the summer classes that I'm taking. The school is literally a walk away. So I will be walking over there to do a lot of homework. I'm planning on trying to really lose some weight this summer. So I'm working on that, walking everywhere in town. So getting my exercise and just waiting to see what happens and like what I need to learn from this experience. It is very strange being away from my children. I will say that. And kind of hard, but we've been calling a lot. We've been Zoom calling, They're young, so it's kind of hard to get their attention long to talk about anything, but they love, playing with like the filters on the Zoom calls and stuff, and so that's fun. We've been doing that. So, but yeah, let's see, what birth stuff can we talk about besides what I'm doing? I had a whole bunch of things I thought I wanted to say, but last week's or a couple weeks ago, my rant about the Mean Girls was kind of interesting, but now I'm hanging out with a really nice girl, so I know there's a lot of really nice midwives too. Mostly, I feel like mostly what I meet are really sweet, really nice people. So that's good, because that's who you want to be midwives, right? Like, oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the International Confederation of Midwives and that recent, I guess, scandal. I don't know if scandal is the right word, but like how the indigenous midwives like staged a walkout from the meeting. And I completely empathize with them and understand why they staged that walkout, because honestly, I don't know. I'm really frustrated and fed up with a lot of midwifery, like the large midwifery organizations, the professional organizations that we work under. As much as, like I said in the last thing, I was talking about the professionalism of midwives and how I'm grateful and glad that we are getting professionalized. But it comes with a price. It comes with a price. And that means that, the International Confederation of Midwives was saying that they could not use the terms like indigenous midwives or traditional midwives because they're trying to be more clear in their language about what a midwife is internationally. But that excludes a whole bunch of midwives that have traditionally held the space when midwifery wasn't a profession, wasn't a thing, wasn't considered real, at a time when midwifery was really being squelched by the powers that be. Indigenous midwives were the ones that held that space and kept it alive, So it feels really yucky that this International Confederation of Midwives makes that distinction and is like, we can't talk about you because you're not quote unquote licensed, you're not legal, or whatever the case may be. Some probably are licensed and some are legal, but the definition, because the definitions are blurry or whatever, we don't want to talk about you because we're a professional organization. So now we have to make that distinction, And on one hand, I kind of understand that too, because when you start talking about, it's kind of a slippery slope. When you start talking about, traditional midwives or spiritual midwives or, granny midwives or whatever label, indigenous midwives, whatever label you're talking about, it's confusing it's already confusing to the public that there are